Alright, Keqing, the girl who you thought had cat ears but turns out to be a bun, and hopefully you didn't just find that out by watching this video. She comes in without any fuss, ending her enemies like a few ducks, leaving behind their dirty little junks, yet there's something that just really sucks. And usually I don't give any fucks, but why is this skin worth 40 fucking bucks? Are these people nuts? They're like forcing me to cuss. I bet they're laughing like Lux. You better give her proper buffs, you punks.
Don't blink!
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Alright, starting with her elemental abilities. Elemental skill, Flying Raijin. Keqing places down a mark like Minato, and then can reapply the skill and teleport like Minato, and then slashes the enemies with even more electro damage like Minato. Now there's another way you can use this ability. So after you place the mark down, you can charge attack to ignite the mark and deal electro damage. But this is a big waste for your damage, because one, thanks to Keqing's passive, she can basically use a stronger version of that ignition attack numerous times with her infused charge attack for 5 seconds. 2, the cooldown of your skill remains the same whether you charge attack or teleport. So even if the damage of this ignition is stronger, with common knowledge applied, I believe any number above 1 is more than 1, so no point in using this. Elemental burst, Kamui. Not this Kamui, not that Kamui, but the Kamui from, gosh, this thing. It was the most accurate thing I can find, and there was also a few other options, but they were too orange, yeah. Anyways, Keqing consecutively slashes the enemies with electro damage, and then the final slash deals big electro damage. Now, the percentage of this ability is a little low, but if you consider the cost of this ability, it's really not that bad, because you can basically spam this, which is a pretty rare thing. Moving on to passive talents. Passive 1, please just teleport instead of charge attacking, like Minato. Electro infusion for 5 seconds after teleporting. Passive 2, easy stats. Using your burst increases your crit rate by 15% and energy recharge by 15% for 8 seconds. Wow, incredible! I am so impressed! Passive 3, expedition stuff, yay, because you definitely need 2 in Ryū. Moving on to Constellations. Constellation 1, Keqing's teleportation process deals electro damage. Constellation 2, Keqing's auto attacks to electrified enemies regenerates energy. Constellation 3, your Kamui has a Kamui. Constellation 4, when Keqing causes electro reactions, she receives a 25% attack increase for 10 seconds. Constellation 5, Flying Raijin, level 3. Constellation 6, your normal attack, charge attack, elemental skill, and elemental burst increases your electro damage by 6%, but they're all independent and you can increase it up to 24%. Yeah, that C6 kind of seems weak for a 5 stars, but we'll never get to that anyway, so who cares? Right? Moving on to artifacts. For beginners, I would recommend the 4-piece Sojourners, 4-piece Martial Arts, or 2-piece Berserker with 2-piece whatever I just said. For endgame, now there's a few different ways people build Keqing from what I know, but for the basic part, there's Electro Keqing or Physical Keqing. I am a fan of Electro Keqing. I don't think it's better than physical Keqing. I think it's objectively better than physical Keqing. Reactions brings a lot into the table for Keqing, and when it comes to physical, you just rely on your charge attack, whereas Electro uses everything and tries to strengthen everything. So Electro Keqing's better. But I will mention the physical build as well. So actually, let's get over that right now. There's 2 physical related artifacts, Bloodstained and Pale Flame. I would go for the Bloodstained because it strengthens your only option for physical damage by a whole lot. That's a lot of damage and a lot of consistency with the stamina reduction to 0. The only flaw is that you need to defeat an enemy in order to have this sweet buff, which is restrictive when it's dealing with high HP cucks like these guys. But still wouldn't use Pale Flame over Bloodstained, so that kind of leaves us with the 4-piece Shimenawas, which is basically almost like Bloodstained, but it trades your energy for the buff, and it also doesn't have any stamina reduction. But it's probably more manageable than Bloodstained when dealing with these cucks, because you don't have to kill anyone. I'm personally not a big fan of the set, because it saps your energy, and there's a few enemies in this game that loves sucking you off. Oh god, that came out wrong. Now for Electric Keqing, we have a few options here as well. 2-piece Gladiators or Shimenawas with 2-piece Thunder Fury or the 4-piece Thunder Soother. Now the 4-piece Thunder Soother is quite interesting. It increases your electro resistance, but also increases your damage dealt to enemies who got their balls electrified. The issue does come in when they aren't affected by electro, so if you do happen to use this set, your team is most likely going to be mono electro. One issue with that is that there is no electro healer unless you make Lisa into one, but I'm sure that's not an investment that you want to put into, especially when you can just use something simple like Bennett or Diona. Or you can just spam your burst so you take no damage while going through the burst animations. But anyways, something more manageable I would say is the 2-piece Gladiators / Shimenawas with the 2-piece Thunder Fury, because it's not restrictive and it's fairly easy to build as well. I finished building my Keqing with a few scrap artifacts that I had, and the ratio is somehow still better than my main character. Now for primary stats, you do want to grab attack percentage for Sans, electro damage or physical damage for Goblet, depending on what you're building, and then crit rate or crit damage based on what you need more. But I do want to point out that Keqing's ascension stat is crit damage. For substats, again, crit rates and crit damage like every DPS character, and then attack percentage. Thankfully, Keqing's burst cost is 40 and her passive gives you energy recharge, so ER is not the most desperate stat. Moving on to weapons. Oh no, all the best ones are limited. What a surprise. So I would safely note that either the Jade Cutter or the Mist Splitter is the best choice for Keqing. I don't have the Jade Cutter, so I can't tell you much there, but I do believe that it helps with not only your survivability, but also your attack stat. Oh yeah, and the main thing, you know, the massive crit rate, which is actually something that my Keqing desperately needs. But Mist Splitter does deal pretty good damage, so I'm not complaining. It has high base attack, decent crit damage, with an amazing ability suited for Keqing as well. I would say Mist Splitter is great not only with damage, but also aesthetically better on Keqing. Now, there are other swords like Aquila Favonia, which is obviously for physical Keqing, and I don't think Skyward Blade is a necessity on Keqing, because the cost of her ability is 40, and Summon Shaper, I don't know why you have this, I'm sorry that you do, but it should be better than some of the 4-stars, or equally almost similar. I'm sure it's better. I don't have it, so I can't tell you much, so thank God. Freedom Sorn. You know who this is for. The guy who got his rerun stolen by a character that was released after him. Anyways, moving on to 4-stars. So surprisingly enough, there aren't that many DPS swords. It's a 4-star rating. So we have the Credit Card Sword, probably the best 4-star in slot for Keqing, with this amazing self-sustaining ability and a bunch of crit rate, with a cost of 3 to 4 fries. Then the Lion's Roar, high attack percentage, and especially better with Pyro and Electro units, which I'm sure you'll care about. Ali Flash is available as well, but probably not the best for Keqing, because it's Elemental Mastery, which I'm sure you'll care about. And then we have the Prototype, which is for physical, which I'm sure you'll care about. Then there's the Blackcliff, decent ability that requires a soul, your dignity, and your enemy's death. The Flute. I am not a big fan of this weapon, just because. We also have some honorable mentions from the 3-stars, like the Fillet Blade and the Harbinger of Dawn. I wouldn't heavily invest in these, as you would notice a clear difference between the 4-star weapons and the 3-star weapons. And then lastly, we have the Aminoma. I think this is the best free-to-play Electro Keqing sword, but then again, your other options are Prototype and Iron Sting, which is physical and Elemental Mastery focused. Now for teams. In terms of buffing, I guess Sara's value is going to depend on whether she's Constellation 6 or not, because that 60% crit damage buff makes a huge difference, but I'm sure this luxury is blocked behind this devil's creation called RNG. So do I even have to mention his name? Boken the Boken Bennett. That is probably your next cheapest option with the heals and the buffing, which honestly might be better, but that will depend on your build, I guess. But even without Constellation 6, Sara is still a pretty great buffer, and she is a Electro unit, which will help with your resonance, so might as well use her if you do have her. But again, with more Constellation, the better it is for Sara. Just gotta get lucky with the Devil's Game. But if you're building physical DPS, I guess it won't matter whether you choose Sara or Bennett. Actually, Bennett might be a better choice. Now, there's also a new buffer in town named Yunjin. I was skeptical of using her with Keqing, but her buffs are actually pretty decent. Like, it's not mind-blowing, but it's pretty decent. If you just notice the beauty of Keqing's normal attack animation, I would encourage you to try this out since the infusion isn't restrictive to charge attack anyways. Now, in terms of reactions, I don't think we need to focus on that when it comes to Keqing, because none of the electro reactions are massive multipliers that lets you crit like Vaporize or Melt, but they do still help. It's just that when it comes to a reaction like Superconduct, it's just for debuffing, and the damage on Superconduct is, well, it's close to your artifact RNG, which is, you know, abysmally low. For Overload, I guess Xiangling and Toma can be on the table. Xiangling just deals a massive amount of damage, and Toma, because it literally doesn't matter who causes the reaction, his shields are sturdy enough. That should be a good enough reason to put him in the team with the resonance, by the way, with Bennett. And then for Electro Charge, we have Xingqiu and Kokomi. I'm using Kokomi because she heals, and also Xingqiu requires normal attack for Hydra application, which also isn't a big deal, and he also does heal as well, but you know, not as much as Kokomi for sure. And I'm also choosing to use Kokomi over Xingqiu because, you know, I don't care about Xingqiu's shorts. I would say Electro Resonance is effective when using Keqing, since her burst increases her crit rates and energy recharge, and then I guess you can fill the rest with whatever you need for the last slot of your team. Now, Keqing's stamina consumption can feel a little excessive, at least that's how I felt. So if you want to avoid that issue, Diona's stamina reduction shield might be a pretty good use as well, but in most cases, you will be spamming her burst, which will make you feel like a Spectre, now and then being immune to damage. Specters. And last but not least, there's Kazuha and Zhongli, which is just stupid dumb. So choose your poison for Electro Keqing. Now for physical Keqing, again, Diona with the heals and the shields and the stamina reduction, and then Rosaria, if you have her, Constellations to increase her physical damage, but even if you don't, she shares her crit rate, which is always a yay. And then there's Shenyan, which increases your physical damage if you have the shield, and aside from that, just pop a Bennett and you should be fine. I wouldn't know, because I don't build physical. So, how the do you play Keqing? Keqing is not that hard to play. You might be going, okay, I don't think I'm doing enough damage. Am I doing something wrong? No. The percentages for your abilities are just low. But the rotations are pretty basic, like every selfish DPS teams. Like, Keqing's not selfish, but like, you know, that's kind of the order that you go with every DPS teams. Just buff the main one, which is Keqing in this case. So for tips, number 1, spam your burst. Not only are you now immune to damage, the cost is low and you're buffed. I've said this countless times, but you know, just in case. It increases your crit rate and your energy recharge. Number 2, I've made this mistake numerous times, but your infusion only stays for 5 seconds, and I've had a habit of using my skill and then my burst right away because I main Ningguang. But for Keqing, it's kind of the other way around. Number 3, now here's something that's actually useful. The cooldown of your ability is 7 seconds, but the infusion is only 5 seconds, which leaves you with 2 seconds to wait. And another interesting thing about your skill is that it stays in place for 5 seconds, even when you switch out. So technically, I'm kind of contradicting my tip 2, but your burst animation is less than 5 seconds, which means you can cast your E and then immediately press your burst and then reactivate your E like nothing happened, just treating your misclick like a happy accident. Also, your cooldown for your skill starts ticking as soon as you place down a mark, which also can reduce your time and increase your damage per second even further if you do make that mistake. So number 4, from what I can tell, Keqing can charge attack with the infusion 5 times max, so use that time wisely and match with your cooldown, I guess. That is it for this video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Bye bye, guys.